Yeah, I'm glad that we got it.
Hello, hello.
Hi,
Welcome to
everyone.
Fempreneur True Confessions Podcast with Laura and Angelique. Hi.
Hope you all had a wonderful Fourth
Yes.
and a great weekend. I am Laura or Oda, and I own an agency of virtual assistants and project managers that help out behind the scenes for small businesses so that they can grow their business without the overwhelm of trying to still continue to do it all yourself. Because growth comes more hats. So we take
Isn't
care
that
of
the
more
truth?
hats.
Mm-hmm. And I'm
So
Angelique with Lady Powerhouse Solutions. And Laura and I do really similar things. I think my target market, my niche is just a little different. I do more social media, do more design and more creative work. I work with more authors and speakers, probably, and coaches, although you work with those too. I guess I just work on the more creative side. Um, Maybe. I don't know. You have some really cool clients though, especially right now, that you're working with that are on this awesome mission, and I love working with clients like that. And so that's who I love to work with, is women who are out there on fire, lighting up the world with their passion, and we help them achieve their mission in the most authentic way possible. So that's what I do. And the podcast it exists because Laura and I, well, Laura, why don't you tell the story? I love it when you tell the story.
when I tell the story, okay.
Yeah.
So, well, Angelique and I met in a coaching program together. And we were in like a group meeting one day that we were doing live. It was like a support meeting that day, and Angelique was talking about um, now from birth I've been pretty spiritual and I was gifted and stuff. And if you know my story, I shut my gifts down. So come this coaching program and me starting a business, all of a sudden my gifts were opening up and I was re-embracing my highly sensitive and my empathic side and stuff. And in this meeting one day, Angelique started talking about that. This was not a group of women that normally had those conversations. I wasn't feeling quite in place with that kind of stuff. But Angelique was. And so immediately after that, I stalked her. I kind of looked to see who she was and what was going on. And we talked. I reached out, through encouragement in the coaching program. Anyway, we're supposed to reach out to other
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
I reached out to her, and it was more of a conversation of, well, hey, who are you? What are you doing? What's your focus? But it was also, I'm really excited to know that there's other people in the world of the HSP and the empath and the spiritual side, and can we talk a little more? Like, can I pick your brain? Can we do stuff? And then as we talked, we realized that we were sick of the bright shiny object. We were sick of the way success looked without it really discussing the whole,
All of it.
this is what it took me 10 years to do this, but I look, really bright and shiny and successful now. And our stories and our journeys were being told. And so that's what really it came about for us was we were talking, we were having similar issues and problems and things and trying to find the support. We started looking up all the statistics. It was insane, the stuff that we were reading and realizing. And we wanted a place for women to really then be able to tell their stories. We wanted to hear their stories.
Yeah.
I love the success stories. We all need it. And as we
Yeah,
become highly
absolutely.
successful, we are going to celebrate all of that. But it is also that story underneath that really empowers other women. And since we are so much in the empowerment of it and being able to be open, be vulnerable, it put us in a position here to be those things. Now, I've always pretty much been an open book. I've always been a TMI kind of person, not knowing when to shut up or that kind of thing. But it made it so much nicer, and it was so much more exciting when we could be like, hey, these women are going through these stories. They are also being vulnerable. They're opening up. And it's the scariest place in the world to be when you are raw and open to, yes, I have failed at this. I have banged my head on walls. I have cried in corners and closets. I personally have hidden from my family to, go take a drive and scream and cry and do all the things that they don't see from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless I'm angry, of course. I mean, I yell in my house, but so it's very interesting of how amazing it's gone on and what we've done and the stories, what it brings out for
Yeah.
women, and
Well, that was the kind of the goal, right? Was to create this platform to model, hey, this is what it looks like when we talk about the real shit.
Mhm.
And that's okay. Nobody's going to die. You're not going to get fired. If anything, you're more relatable. I'm reading a book right now, and she talks about stepping out in a lot of vulnerability, and it was either going to bankrupt her or it was going to work. And it was a huge
Mhm.
opportunity, and she stepped out because she knew if she didn't, she'd wonder and regret for the rest of her life. If only I'd followed what I really wanted to do instead of being pressured by, uh, how do I say it without saying it? Um, outside influences, right? Not what she was
Yeah.
truly being called to do. And so, and that was, she went on live television without makeup on, and she has rosacea. And she wanted to represent what our skin really looks like, what we really look like without all the paint and the fake and the makeup. Not that that's a bad thing. Anybody who does it, that's great. I wear makeup occasionally.
Right.
Not dissing any of that. Oh God. But being able to, and that's what we're about, modeling that it's okay to be your real self. It's more than okay to give women a place to be able to relate and connect, to collaborate versus competing. Because as one of our past guests, if you haven't listened to this episode yet, go back and listen to it. There is no such thing as competition. It doesn't
Mhm.
exist. It's something we created. And we can
Yep.
recreate, we can create something else, right? We can collaborate instead of competing.
Yeah.
And we can talk about abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset, that there's more than enough to go around. Even though Laura and I do really, really similar things, we do it in
We
different
do.
ways. I'm not everybody's special sauce. So, you know,
Well,
anyway,
and like you said, like you work with my clients, I know your clients, we do that interaction. And well, what does that mean? I'm like, well, we did. It's not like we just went all in and all willy nilly and that kind of thing. There are guidelines and boundaries and things that we set to ensure each other doesn't go crazy in the process. But our mindset, our goal is for everyone to win. And when
wait,
we're
I want
in,
to pause there because we haven't achieved this. Okay. We still go crazy every once in a while. We still
yes,
lose our shit. We still get confused and mixed up and aggravated and frustrated. It's a thing. When you
right, yeah,
talk to somebody every day, when you're in a relationship that is this consistent, shit will
yeah.
come up.
Oh yeah, it
And
still
we
does,
still
and
love
we
each
have
other and we still talk to each
right. But we get that opportunity to be who we are. Like Angelique had to get used to my personality. I had to get used to hers. Um, and it was still a fit. Sometimes you get used to someone, you're like, this may not be a fit. You're a great person, business wise, let's be friends, and maybe not business. But we through the years worked out what worked for us. Like
other. Yeah.
how we
Oh,
work
and it
with each
has been years, hasn't it?
other. And it has. It's been
Well, we're on our third season of the podcast
yeah,
alone, and we worked together before that.
4 years,
So,
4.5.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot. It's just really good, and it feels good when we talk about that. And I know as people are growing and coming into business, and you hear all the old ways of doing things, we're still really focused on this. The world is changing. It's something new.
Mm,
It's something better. We all came, most of us, not all, I won't say all, but most of us came from some type of competitive world. Whether you were
yeah.
in sports or you're in
Yeah.
business, or especially in business, everybody's vying for some kind of seat somewhere.
And a lot of
And it's
people come from that corporate environment where there is a lot of competition and ladder climbing and all that stuff.
yeah.
And our guest is no exception. She spent some time in corporate as well. And I can't wait to catch up with her. We were in the green room earlier talking about um, uh, when we first met, and it was 2020. And
Mhm.
so, wow, cool. Yay. So we've got Lynda here. Lynda was here with us back in 2023. Let's do an official intro for her though. I want to be all official.
So Linda, she ran away at 5 years old and was gone an entire week. That's crazy. 2 days for me. Came home riddled with fears and in turn became a people pleaser. At age 51, she decided to break through one fear every day for a year, and in so doing, gained an exorbitant amount of confidence to share her story. Her mission is to empower 5 million women and men to write their stories to make a greater impact on the planet. Lynda Sunshine West is the founder and CEO of Action Takers Publishing, a celebrity bestseller book publishing. She's an expert speaker 3 times and #1 international best-selling award-winning author. She is also a senior level executive contributing writer at Brains Magazine and executive film producer. Of course, you had all the freaking big words that my mouth doesn't seem to be able to form.
I'm so happy I could oblige.
Okay,
well, hearing you read my bio, I'm like, okay, my bio's too long. I got to shorten it. Okay, I'm gonna go shorten it. I'm just gonna put like little bullets on it.
I think you had a shorter one, but I always feel like the short ones are like they shortchange you because, you know, okay, no offense. I love men. Okay. I don't hate men. All right. Most I like some of them. Anyway, there's one. Anyway, they don't hesitate. They don't hesitate to shine their light, to talk about their accolades, to say I'm good at this or I'm good at that or I won this award. Why do you think that bio's too long? Why we can't talk about you for 3 minutes straight? Men
just
can do this.
Okay, because sitting here listening to your bio being read for a long period of time, like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to look over there? It's just kind of awkward from on this side. That's all. I'm like,
maybe we should leave
the highlight.
Yeah, maybe we should leave a guest in the green room until we get done with
presenting. Bring her up.
Right.
Okay.
I'm always worried I have RBF on. When I'll have to look at the camera, make sure I look at myself really quick when I'm listening because I always worry that my RBF has appeared. And I'm like,
I was like, RBF, what's that? Okay.
Resting bitch face. We can say the whole thing. We're marked explicit. We can say the whole thing. Woo!
Oh, resting bitch face. I have a great one.
Watch out, people.
Right?
Marked explicit.
Yeah, unfiltered. We like to say unfiltered.
Well, let's go. I want to go to that question that you asked there. And so for me, it's interesting because I spent so many years being my own worst enemy that now when I hear these positive things about me, it took a while for me to accept them. And it's been through the whole journey I've been through. At 51, I hired a life coach, worked with her. And that was like the start of the journey of self-acceptance, of self-worth, of believing in myself. And so now when I hear those things, I'm like, yep, that's me. That's me. So I have no problem talking good about myself, hearing other people say good things about me. But I used to tremendously. I would feel so uncomfortable. But now, there are so many amazing things I've done. It's like, how do you put it all into a bio? It's just, to me, it's just like too much. So let's just get to the highlights and then move on. And let's hear the real story of okay, that's cool, Lynda, but how'd you get there?
Yeah, really, exactly. And that's what we're all about. It's like, how'd you get there? Yes, you've got all these accolades. And I think it's important that I know in presentations, they always say, people don't know who you are. You have to tell them who you are and why they should listen to you. Well, if I'm here, I'm already ready to listen to you. I've already gotten that stuff. And so But maybe there's somebody just jumping in who's never even heard of you and doesn't know you from Adam.
Well, you know what? Most haven't, so we're okay. Most haven't. I want to go back to one last thing on that bio. And I remember I don't know if you were on Clubhouse, but back in the Clubhouse days, there was this room on Clubhouse. For those who don't know, it was an audio. I think it's still around. It's an audio app where you go on and it's all audio. There's no video, and people have conversations, and you're invited to the stage to participate or not. And so anyway, there was this room, and it was about pitching yourself to podcasts. And so I was like, okay, I got my script. I wrote it down so I could say it verbatim. And I got up there and I said my whole script. I was pitching myself to this podcast. And then at the very end, I said, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that when I was 5 years old, I ran away and I was gone for a week. And then the lady, she goes, you should have started there.
You should leave with that.
Yeah, she said, every bio, every time you introduce yourself, start with that. And so that's why it's at the very beginning of my bio, because that is my shock and awe, right? That's my hook. That's what brings people in to want to hear more. And so anyway, it took me, 8 years to get there, to know that, how important that one little piece was,
Yeah.
It's that little touch story.
Yeah. That makes us who we are. That shaped you. That created who you are today. Yeah. That little 5-year-old girl, she's still there. She's still there. And that same spirit that decided, nope, and climbed out that window or whatever. My daughters ran away too, around that age. And luckily we lived right next door to their grandparents, and they didn't go far, but it was, as a mother, it was also very, impactful for me. Right. And I remember running away when I was a preteen in junior high, and there was so much drama and tears and everything. But I lived in this little tiny podunk town in the middle of South Dakota, 200 people. Nothing bad was going to happen to me there, get kicked by a horse. That's probably the worst thing that happened to me there. But, I was going somewhere with this, and I completely lost it down the rabbit hole. I don't remember what it was. Oh, this thing that shapes us, right? It's gone. It might come back. I do this fairly regularly. Help me, Laura. Pull me out.
Well, I'll share. Okay, so I'll pull you out. I have no problem pulling you out. Okay, so what's interesting is you mentioned that shaped who I am. Oh, and you say that shaped who I am today. Actually, that shaping, it took decades of shaping out of that. And so what happened was I came home riddled with fears. And just so if anybody's asking, like, where did you go? Because that's usually the first question people ask, is I just went to the neighbor's house. So I was in a safe environment, just like your daughters were in a safe environment. But I was gone for a week. And why was I gone for a week? Like, why didn't my mom come to get me? Why didn't anybody come to get me? Well, as a 5-year-old, that created a belief within me that they didn't come to get me because they don't love me and don't want me around. That was my belief. What I didn't know is that my mom was in communication with the neighbor every day, but I didn't know that. So I came home with this belief that they don't love me, they don't want me around. And I carried that belief around with me for decades until I started working with my life coach, who helped me to unravel that. That was age 51. Okay, so we got 46 years of living with this belief. 46 years. And when I finally came to that conclusion, that realization that my mom knew I was safe, she knew I'm number 4 of 5 kids. She had 4 other kids to deal with. She was probably like grateful, like I was on vacation, But so after a week, when she talked to the neighbor, she said, you know what, Lynda's been gone long enough. You can send her home now. Now, I would have been gone forever had it been up to me, because it was a very volatile, abusive, alcoholic household. And I did not feel safe in that environment. So I was moving to somewhere safe, But the point on that is that did shape me tremendously. It created fears. It created people pleaser mentality. It created all these self-doubt, self-worth, like so much negative about myself that I believed for so many, 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 many years, until I started working with somebody who saw who I really am from the
Mm.
outside and
Mhm.
pointed it out and helped me to grow into that person. So who I am today is not who I was, for decades, but who I am today is who I'm supposed to be. This is the person who now has all those experiences that I can carry into what I do today as a book publisher, help people to bring their story out, to bring you mentioned the word vulnerability, during the pre-show. And like, I truly believe that our vulnerability is our greatest strength. When we show up
Yeah.
vulnerably, it invites others to show up vulnerably. And this is where we create our greatest relationships. And I like to say it's our relation points that create our relationships. So if we always show up as the shiny object, as you mentioned, Laura, at the beginning, is like if we always show up in that shiny object, nobody relates to us except those people who are in that shiny object world. But others don't relate to us because they don't see that we can relate to them. It's really important for us to show up, to share who we truly are and or were, so that we can
Mm.
have people understand that we understand them and we know where they're
Yeah.
coming from.
Yeah. I struggle too. You mentioned earlier, the accolades, and when people compliment me, I didn't used to. I used to be very good because for the most part, I grew up with my mom was very loving and encouraging. I didn't have a lot of in my childhood, anyone telling me there was anything I couldn't do.
Hmm.
It was overall, a positive environment. Um, but in adulthood, I got gaslit um, for 5 years. And it was this constant barrage of you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not good enough. Um, and then being told that you were good at something was manipulation. It was a manipulation
Hmm.
of, oh, let me tell you, oh, you're doing well now. You're, whatever. Because they wanted you to agree with them or do something or give them money or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and so now I struggle with receiving compliments because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking they just want something from me.
Yeah.
And so I try to be very present with that and process it each time so that I can get better at understanding that that's a genuine thing that they're saying and not let it trigger me and go down this rabbit hole of just wondering why are they why are they trying to use me or what are they using me for? It's a real struggle, especially when you are good at something. Go ahead, Laura.
Well, I was gonna say, like you said, like you had this child and you were encouraged, you weren't struggling with this in 5 years. We're talking about the shortest blip created the most mental, because it becomes that it's so easy to get into that negative mode, especially when it's coming at you, and and then reversing that back out. So from what you had, and people are like, well, 5 years, how could it affect you so much? But when you're living in negative for 5 years, it really does mentally erase all the, or not erase, but definitely push down to not be seen all the things that you knew to be true beforehand.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Even people were talking about, like, I had a boss that yelled in my last position when I first moved to Oklahoma. He yelled at me daily for 6 months. Now,
Oh
I have
my
put up
God.
with abuse my whole life. I have worked through it. I've learned to deal with it. But in that atmosphere, it broke me because he was authority. This is my
Yeah,
job. This is my livelihood. And what do I say back? And then the when I finally did step back up, and the shock and awe of, oh my God, you talk to
yeah.
me that way. Like,
The
you have been
realization.
treating me this way. Why are you so shocked that I can return the favor?
Hmm.
Like, I
Hmm.
do know how. I took on a lot. And it was funny, what I realized was that little tiny bit of time, because it was 6 months, it broke me the most compared to the years of things that may have happened before that. It was very interesting that even just the smallest blips of time where things can be very volatile and horribly negative can affect you for such a long term, especially if you're not recognizing where that's coming from, and what's going on. You luckily, Angelique, recognized it, and
Well,
you're
it
able
was
to work through it.
much
Like,
later, though. I learned that it was very physiological, like chemically, what was going on in my body was literally programming and causing brain damage and reprogram. Physical synapses were changing in my brain, and so it has taken years to repair it. And obviously, it still comes up. It still comes up. But I recognize it and I'm able to, address it and try to do the reprogramming and quote unquote fix it. More than anything, not allow it to continue to affect my daily life, right? The way I'm in relationship, like you mentioned, Lynda, in relationship with other people. Um, so one of the things I was telling Linda before we went live, like I really didn't know what to name this episode. All I know is that I'm planning on writing a book. You're a publisher. I'm a huge reader, and I'm in a reading phase right now where I'm just devouring books. Um, and and worthiness has been a recent thing coming up for me personally. And it has to, when you're writing a book, especially if you're writing about your own personal life, but also when you're writing about others, because I know you do a lot of not a lot, but you have ghost writers that do writing for to tell other people's stories. Um, that has to come up for the other people too. This idea of, is my story even worth telling?
Yeah, it comes up a lot. And I want to go back to what you two were just talking about, the gaslighting and what have you. There are so many people out there that are experts at gaslighting, right? And what happens is, this is my own belief from my own experience. My dad was a gaslighter. He was a narcissist. Like, you name it, my dad was it, right? He was the bad of the bad. He wasn't a murderer, so he wasn't anything like that, but he was he just had this evil that he carried around with him, and it was the evil that was from his childhood he carried around. So
Mm-hmm. Hurting
anyway,
people hurt people.
yeah, exactly. And he was very hurt, and so he lashed out, and so I didn't want to be that kind of person, so I didn't. Anyway, fast forward to what I wanted to talk about, the gaslighting part. And it's interesting because, as you mentioned, Angelique, so you had a good childhood, you had this positive, supportive, uplifting type of childhood, whereas as when you became later into adulthood, that shifted. You met somebody in your life who saw something in you, saw vulnerability, and
Mm-hmm.
penetrated that vulnerability, that all that belief that you had, that belief system that you had created when you were growing up, that your family helped to create when you were growing up. We adopt our belief systems from those we're around, those
Mm-hmm.
our surroundings. That's how we
Right.
adopt them. And then we get to decide later if we're going to change our beliefs. Like, this is how it happens.
Yeah.
And so you got introduced to somebody and they were a gaslighter. So they found that piece that they could tap into and exploit it. And so here's my thought on this. And this is from not only from growing up in abuse, but also later in life. After I became an entrepreneur, I left the corporate. I was in corporate for 36 years, had 49 jobs. After that, I became this entrepreneur, and I meet this gentleman who I'll tell you his name because I don't want people to think it's somebody else that is not. His name is Steven. I'll just say that first name. And I met this gentleman, Steven, and I joined his coaching program. What I didn't realize is that coaching program was a cult. And I didn't realize it for a year and a half. But here I am, an adult. I was 52, 53 years old at the time, something like that. And I'm making this decision to join this program because all the promises were there. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
promised that, well, this
Oh,
and
the
that.
future faking.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And none of that stuff happened, which that's okay. That's okay that none of it happened. But my point here is that I got into this program. I was being gaslighted and didn't know it, because gaslighters are so good at what they do
They
that,
really
again, they
are.
penetrate those vulnerabilities. And what they look for is that vulnerable place. Now, that's from them. Now, what's going on with us that allows us to get into that environment? Because it really is, we have to look inward and say,
Yeah.
what did I not see? What did I we have to look at ourselves, because we can point our fingers all we want, but when we look at ourselves, what I realized for me, and this might not be for everybody, but I was in a state of desperation. My business wasn't going well. I didn't know what I was doing. I was losing money. I was spending, investing, whatever words people want to use about my business with the money. And this was my panacea. This was the person who saw what I was going through, who knew what I was going through, and was going to help me, was going to bring me to the glory days. Right. And so I was in a state of desperation. And because I was in a state of desperation, my blinders were on. I didn't see all the things that some of my friends were telling me. I'm like, no, it's not like
Right.
that at all. Like, I
Yeah.
would make
Yeah.
excuses.
And there's a parade. Like there's all these flags everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. You look back, you're like, oh, I should have seen this. I should have seen that. But it was my desperation. So here's what I've decided since that time. And since I've come out of that. And by the way, he's now in jail. He's been in prison for a year and a half. Thank goodness, because he did a lot of bad things that I didn't even know about were happening. But it was my desperation. And so what I've decided in my life is that if I'm feeling desperate, don't take an action. Like, this has been
Mm,
one of the best pieces of advice I've ever given myself, is if I'm feeling desperate, don't do it.
Right.
Step back, think, get counsel from other people, really think about it. And how many times have you attended a webinar, a seminar, a workshop, or whatever, that they have made you feel like you have to jump into this today or your life
Right.
is over? Like they do this, and they're all gaslighting us. And last thing I want to say on that is, when we attend those, what I decided to do. This is what I decided. And it's been, again, it's about empowering ourselves with our
right.
decisions. And so what I decided is, I'm attending one of those events and they make me feel like I need to jump in. I ask myself this question: am I willing to pay full price for this? If so, then I'll get in at half price. But if I'm not willing to pay full price, why would I pay half price?
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are things that just a couple
I
things that
love
like help me to be empowered
Yeah.
with my decisions
Yeah.
and moving forward.
We have a coach who did our human design, and for me, I'm an emotional wave. And I tend to make decisions on an emotion, especially when it comes to like anger, if I've been triggered. So it's funny because now when people do that, where they're like, you've got just this amount of time. And I will literally say, oh, yep, that's not my design. I literally am forced to wait 24 hours so I don't ever make a decision on emotion. And what's funny is they'll stop, and then I'll get a message and be like, just for you, we extended it the 24 hours to give you your time to get over your wave. Well, I'm good. My wave was done. I'm good. Because
Yeah.
if I
Right.
didn't call you back and within that time, my waves don't last super long. I do wait 24 hours, but I might not very long. And I can pretty much know yes or no at the end of that. But once I learned that that's what I was doing for so long, a lot of the stupid decisions, I guess, for lack of a better word, were ending, because I was
Well,
like, oh my God, I spent a lifetime in my emotion and making decisions from, you're supposed to do when you're excited, right?
yeah.
And we were just talking about this morning in coaching, and it's really not, because how she described it was, the pendulum is way over here, but you're going to have a reaction this way.
Yeah.
So if it's not centered, it's not a decision to make in that moment. Like
Yeah.
until you get here,
Yeah.
you're best off this way.
I love
and
that.
about myself now, it definitely makes so much more sense, because I'm one that just makes decisions. Some have been great, some have been bad, and I've just worked through that. I've never really sat down with a full understanding of why I make the decisions I make. And that was part of it. It's because I'm literally designed as an emotional managing. So I'm on an emotional wave, and that's how I function. And so knowing that specific has definitely changed, but really learning that emotional part and how they talk to you and how they target in on that, being in business, it took me a couple years to really discern that. And part of my first coaching group was a little bit of that. I really started to understand that. Look, if you don't give me a week or 2 or 3, as a business person, I send out a proposal. I don't put a deadline time on it. If I'm going to change rates, then I then re-email them later and be like, you've had the proposal, our rates are going up. If you want to stay here, I then put a deadline on it. But if I'm not doing anything, I have zero need to push people into decisions that they're going to regret later. It's going to be a problem for us later anyway.
Like, lately it's been coming up for me that I don't have all the information. My partner says this a lot. I didn't have all the information. I reacted and I didn't have all the information. Or I reacted and I didn't have all the information, right? Waiting until we have more information. Or and that sometimes will just take time. And sometimes the information's there, but we're so emotional or in a heightened state that it doesn't register, right? It doesn't process. We can't see it. It's like, that's why they say, they're seeing red. That's all they can see because their brain is on high alert and they can't process rational thinking sometimes in that heightened state. But
people say they see red. That's a real thing.
And my husband does that. Yeah, he sees red.
I see red. Yeah. I am a Taurus through and through, and I tell people, please don't force it to the red color, because that's the moment when any control that I had over anything goes out the door. And red for me is a natural just rage. So I tell people to please, and I warn people all the time, like, oh, please stop, back up, stop doing, like, don't push any further, because what will happen after that is going to shock you. And and I talk about, I always end up
to step away, right?
Shocked, like, you.
If they won't, then is it our responsibility to do that?
I believe it is. Yeah. There's so much negativity in the world, it always has been there. I think it's just more heightened because social media is so out there, than more than it used to be. But there's so much negativity in the world. We get to choose what we're going to do. And I remember the day, it was in January of 2015, and I was hosting my first event, my first live event. It was a nonprofit event. And I stood up there and I was kind of like, talking a little bit about what we were going to share and, talk about and stuff. And then I said out loud, and I remember this verbatim because it was such an impactful thing that I said for me. And that was that I have just made a personal life's declaration. I will spend the rest of my life having as much fun as possible, hanging out with positive and uplifting people who are making a positive impact on the planet. I was sick and tired of all the negativity in my life. So I turned off the TV. Anytime I would be in an environment where there was conflict, which for me is negative energy, I just would leave. So now, if I'm in that kind of environment, I literally just turn around and walk away. I don't tell anybody I'm leaving. I don't say a word. I don't care what they think, because you're not my energy. I want to be surrounded by positive and uplifting people, because I spent too many decades in negativity and I'm tired of it. It wore me down. And so I really want to spend my time around, people who are doing good in this world. It's really important for me to do that. And I cut those who aren't. And it's plain and simple for me. It didn't used to be. As a people pleaser, it was hard for me to turn around and walk away, because I had to have all these excuses and reasons why I was leaving. But what's the saying? No is a complete sentence, which I love that.
Yeah, it is.
Full and complete.
I love that.
I'm a people pleaser too. I've been working through that, and that's that. Oh, and every so often when I do something and I know, and I'm like, later, it's the, oh, why did you agree to that? You knew better, and and so I've learned more through the years. But that, I think, is one of the hardest things of the stuff of working on from past things, is the people pleasing side. Because I don't care if people like me. I'm not a popularity contest person. I really don't give a shit what people think about me. But I wanted to genuinely be of service. which is again can be toxic. Like, are you in service of others? And you get into a mindset where, okay, yes, I'm helping others, which means that's all good. It doesn't matter that I don't have anything because I'm in service to others, right? But that people pleasing came out like that, and it wasn't to fit in, it wasn't to do that, but it was a mindset of, if I'm even if I'm depleting myself to almost nothing, but I'm serving others in a happy, positive way, then that's all the blessing I need. Everything will work out. And I'm like, holy shit, I have spent way too much time in that mode, and it doesn't work out like you think it will because I'm depleted. And now, even I said something one day, I was like, when I used to get that depleted, then when things would go to work out and it was all great, I didn't have what it took to celebrate it or to be happy about it. Like, whatever. And it just went on, and I learned not to celebrate myself or celebrate things because I was always just too tired once it finally hit that point.
And I think that's kind of a corporate conditioning thing too, like always having those goals to reach, and then not necessarily celebrating the goal once it's reached, just setting the next one. And it does feel depleting and defeating to just to know that, well, even if I achieve that goal, they're just going to set another one for me to reach. So but again, there goes the competition. But we're all about collaboration over competition here, and abundance over scarcity. So talk a little bit, Lynda, more about what you're doing nowadays. We've touched on, all the things that a little bit about, what we talked about the last time. But it's been a couple years, so certainly a lot has happened.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've moved into the state of working with celebrities to publish their books, and I know you were talking a little bit about self-worth a little bit earlier. And I remember when I made the decision to do this, I first started, like, I was like, oh, the excited part, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is a great idea. I love it. And then I was like, but who am I? Who am I? Why would they want to work with me? And so it started going down that. And I said, you can take a back seat because I am who I am and I know what I do. And I love what I do and I am damn good at it. And I know this. And so I decided to step into that world, and it started in November of 2023. So the end of 2023, after we had the podcast interview, moved into that world of, working with celebrities. And we've published now 4 celebrity books, and we're working on 2 more right now. And so it's just this constant move towards becoming better at what I do and moving into an area where we have more of a spotlight, which is what I'm looking for. I remember one day I said, I mentioned that spotlight. I remember one day, my husband and we had a rock band, and at age 47, I started playing bass guitar and singing, and it was so much fun. I just absolutely loved doing that. I haven't played for a while, put my bass guitar down for a little while, but one day we were setting up, to play at this place, and I don't remember what I said, but my husband looked at me, and he loves me dearly, and he said something that I interpreted in a wrong way. And he said, "You're such a ham," like it was a bad thing. And I was like, I am not. Like, I got
Yeah.
very defensive about that. And then I looked at it and I said, wait a minute, that's actually a good thing. Because people who are hams are showing up. They are showing up as who they are. And I said, you know what? You're right. I am a ham. He said, no, you are. You are. You love the spotlight. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And so now I'm stepping into these places that are getting me in front of larger spotlights. Let's just put it that way. Like, the spotlight's not as small anymore. It's starting to get larger and larger. And what I love about this is, in my business of book publishing, what this does is this gives an opportunity for us to shine a bigger light on our clients, celebrities or not, because we're getting in front of more people, which means more people are watching us, which means more people are watching our clients. So it's really about creating that ripple effect, that with who it is that you're around, who it is that you're with, that creates that amazing ripple effect to them. Now, here's the thing. I want to share this because I'll share a quick story. I remember the first time I was interviewing stars on the red carpet, and this was for the Academy Awards. And and I had this opportunity to interview stars on the red carpet. And again, I was like all excited. I can't wait. I'm going to get there. And I got there, and oh my God, I totally froze and was like, what am I doing? I do not belong here at all. Like, I'm this little girl from Chula Vista, California, and I started again having that self-worth issues. And then I said, just do it. And so the celebrities were walking down the red carpet, being interviewed, and I was about maybe the 15th or 20th
Oh,
interviewer,
wow.
down the line. So I'm watching this and getting more and more nervous, as each second is passing by. And then I get that first celebrity comes up, and I interviewed them for 30 seconds to a minute. It's very short. And
Right.
then when I was done, I was like, I belong here. This is where I belong. Like, this is where I shine. And what's what I want to share about this is what is out there for us. If we don't go for it, we're never going to hit it. But what happens is when we go there, we go to that place, that becomes our comfort zone. See, we expand our comfort zone every time we do something, fearful. And so on that red carpet, first I was terrified. I didn't want to be there. Who am I? Who do I think I am? And all this stuff. And the next thing I'm like, this is my comfort zone. I love being here. So same thing with doing books with celebrities is I belong there. These are my people because I've chosen to become that. We get to choose. We get to choose. Are you going to choose to stay small, or are you going to choose to step into the light, the spotlight?
Yeah.
We all have a spotlight, but are we stepping into it?
Right. Well, that calling, right? Everyone has that thing that they were put here to do. And when you find it, it's like you were just saying, this is what I was meant to do. It feels right, even though it was scary getting there. Right? It was like all this fear that was trying to hold you back. But once you're there, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Wait, this isn't scary. This feels good. And it's something clicks for you, The book that I'm reading is Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima, I think is the author's name. I had to look it up before we started, but she talks about what's different between self-worth and self-confidence. And it's very interesting because I've always been confident. But what I realize is that some people, and I've probably done this, I've confused what self-confidence with self-worth. And so if we don't think we deserve something, we don't act like it, that the universe listens. Right? It's been eye-opening that there is this difference between self-confidence and self-worth. And while I feel very confident in doing things, all kinds of things, there's this lack of self-worth that's holding me back. I don't lack confidence. And I've always wondered, then what's the deal? What's the problem? Why can't I get over whatever this hump is to do the thing? And it's the stuff that we have to deal with our self-worth. And there's way more to it than just get over it, obviously. There's lots of things in there. Why do we not feel worthy? What would help us feel worthy? And so anyway, I think as we, especially as writers, but also as readers, as we start to write our own story or read other people's that have gone through this, it helps us. It helps us realize, oh, well, they did this thing and they came from this upbringing and they still were able to feel worthy. Maybe I can too. I think that's why it's so important that we share our stories.
Yeah. When I was breaking through those fears every day for a year, each fear was like a stepping stone to the next fear. Now, a lot of the fears were very, very similar. And when I looked over the fears, I realized that there was really one fear, but it showed up in different ways. And that was the fear of judgment. I had this tremendous fear of judgment. If I thought I was going to be judged, I just didn't do it. Like that was how I lived my life for 51 years. And so I believe that I had to go through all of those fears in order to put me on those stages. I had to go through all of that to put me on the interviews. I had to go through that in order to get me on that red carpet. I had to go through that red carpet experience in order to get me in front of celebrities to do what I'm doing today. So I had to go through every single one of those experiences as a stepping stone. And what I did is at the end of each day, after I broke through whatever that fear was that day, is I would examine it and say, what was that fear really about? Because it wasn't
The
about
root.
talking to a stranger. Like this was my biggest fear. So talking to strangers, I never, ever, ever approached strangers in my life. And so for me to now talk to celebrities, right? It's like I had to go through that to get me there. And so it's like, yeah, looking at the root cause, like what, not just what caused it, but what was that real fear? Because I thought the fear was talking to strangers. No, the fear was, what am I going to say? And am I going to embarrass myself? That was
Mm-hmm.
my fear.
Yeah.
But so that's when I looked at it, that was my fear. But the reality was, it was the fear of judgment. Now they say that more people are scared of speaking on stage than they are of dying. And that's not true at all. The truth is that more people are scared of what people might think of them when they're speaking on stage. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the speaking on stage. I can go on stage by myself with not a single soul around and I can speak
Right.
and I'm not going to be scared. But you put one person in front of me, fear
Yes.
is going to set in. It's the judgment. What are they going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? So
Mm-hmm.
what I got to do during that year, which was what ended up being the most brilliant year of my life, which I didn't know it at the time. I was breaking through fears. I was so scared, right? But what I got to work on is about 6 months into it, I was like, oh, the fear of judgment, that is my fear. Now I get to work on that. And so now I don't have that fear of judgment. I don't care where I am, who I'm with. I am going to show up as me 100% without that fear of judgment anymore because I worked through that. I have other fears that I'm dealing with now, but the fear of judgment is
Right.
not one of them anymore. Yeah, my fear of judgment is completely gone.
I love that. You're like, well, I have other fears, but that one's taken care of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got plenty of fears.
Right.
Well, even let me
When
say
there's
this.
something very
I want to just say this. So I still have the fear of judgment, but I don't let it control me.
Yeah.
So I wrote a book recently called Do It Because You're Scared. And the reason I came up with this saying, do it, not feel the fear and do it anyway, false evidence appearing real, 5-second rule. No, no, no. I wanted to empower myself about fear. And so when I say do it because you're scared, is like fear is going to show up. But what are you going to do about it? Well, here's what I realize is 99% of the fears that I broke through, I got a great result. I met somebody I would not otherwise have met. Something amazing happened. And so if these are the results 99% of the time, I have to do it. Like, okay, I'm scared. I don't know
yes.
why, but I have to do this because something amazing is going to happen. So if we go into our fears thinking something great is going to happen,
Mhm.
or it's more likely that something great is going to happen. If we go into it with doom and gloom, we're more likely that doom and gloom is going to happen. So shift that mindset. This is just fear. I'm going to do this because I'm scared, because I want to see that amazing result. What is it? I'm excited about what's to come
Yeah.
instead of scared of what's about to come.
Yeah. I think that
Yeah.
that's a really important point because we think that something bad will happen or we will get hurt or we will hurt someone else instead of focusing on, like you said, 99% of the time, it's something awesome
Mm-hmm.
or it's someone awesome. Um, that there's a good thing on the other side of it, not the bad. And if we can shift that make that paradigm shift to look at it from that angle of there's something good on the other side. It may not all be good, but mostly, yes, right? And most of the time, it's going to be mostly good. Yet the odds are ever in your favor, really, truly. Um, the majority of the time, they
Yeah.
are.
Like even looking at situations
Yeah.
like my first marriage, I married somebody just like my dad, very volatile, abusive,
Mm-hmm.
alcoholic, drug addict. That's what I married. And so I was emulating what I came from. And I
Right.
remember that day that I made the decision to leave. And it was a hard decision because we had two babies. My daughter was only 4 weeks old, and my son was only 13 months old. So I had these two little babies, and I looked at the situation and I was like, oh my God, I am growing up in my childhood. Like my kids are going to grow up in my childhood. And so I got to make a decision. And so I was faced with two fears. This is what happens oftentimes with us. We're faced with two fears. Oftentimes what happens is we decide the comfortable fear, the fear we're living in, the fear we've been living in.
Yes.
Because the fear of the unknown is what stops us, what makes us so we don't take that action. And so I looked at that and I said, I've got two fears. I can live the life my mom lived, or I can jump out into the unknown and see what happens. And that was my catalyst for me way back then. You know, I was 21 years old and I made that decision like, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm going to be scared either way. I'm going to choose the lesser of two evils. And that was the evil of jumping into the unknown. And I'm so glad I did, because the life I gave to my kids, because I left their father, was such a beautiful, loving family. My husband and I, we've been together since my kids were 3 and 4. And that's all they know. He is their dad. They had a great upbringing because I chose to leave that situation that was comfortable.
Yeah.
And become
Familiar.
uncomfortable. Right. See, I became uncomfortable, and then it became my comfort zone. So this positivity, this good environment became my comfort zone. At the beginning, I was like, I don't deserve him. He's too good for me. Not my first husband, my current husband, so 37 years married. But I was like, he's too good for me. Like, I don't deserve him. Like, why does he treat me so well? Why does he love the kids? I had all these negative things, but it became my comfort zone. Now I know I deserve him. Like, we're great with each other. My kids deserve to have a wonderful father. And so it's like, making those shifts, it's hard to do, but I think it's necessary for us to do them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's part of the process, the journey, right? Of getting to, again, what we're here to do. And we can't do that if we're in a negative space, or, volatile, right? Because all your energy is soaked up into that, is sucked into that, instead of, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I have all this love and energy, good energy around me to be able to focus on that and do it, and not waste, or spend what limited resources I have on, surviving some of the time, Like for me, it was like I was in survival mode. I really was. Physically, mentally, spiritually, it was very draining. I was exhausted all the time, and physically ill. So anyway, well, thank you for sharing all of that. That was fantastic.
It's my true confession.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, I want to share one last thought here, and I'll keep it short. Is mentioning how I left my first husband. That was like a thing I had to do. Is people look at it and say like that was brave to do, right? You had two little babies, a 4-week-old and 13-month-old. Here's the thing: is there are many acts that I have taken throughout my life that would appear to be brave. Applying for 49 jobs and getting 49 jobs. A lot of people don't like to go interview, or, so I've done a lot of things that may appear brave from some other people looking, because what's brave to me may not be brave to you, and vice versa. And so here's the thing. All of those things that I've done, like running away at 5 years old, running away from 49 jobs, running away from my first husband, it was a pattern that I had of running away. So I started, but I had to look at that and say, was I really running away from something, or was I running to something better? And so I started to shift my thought process that I'm actually looking for something better is what I'm looking for. But all those years I was like running away. And so even though they were brave acts at the time, I didn't know that they were brave acts. I didn't know that I had confidence. See, here's the difference. Like you mentioned confidence earlier, self-confidence, self-worth, is that we can be confident, but not know that we have confidence. We can be brave, but not know that we are brave. It's what we're actually feeling inside about ourselves that is the truth for us. And so for me, I had to move into this place of saying, oh, this is a brave act. Oh, this is a confident move. I am confident. Like I have confidence, and started to like look at myself from this place of who I really, really am and examining that. And I remember when I first started doing that, I was very self-conscious about it. Like, who do I think I am to think I'm smart, to think I'm brave, to think I'm brilliant? Who am I to think that, you know? And then starting to move into that with this belief because of the people that I've met on my journey who have helped me. Like my husband's always been complimentary to me, but it's like, oh, he's just my husband. He's just saying that because he wants to be nice, right? But then when outside people start saying it, we have the decision to deflect what they're saying or to accept it to be truth. Because as I stated earlier, our beliefs are based on those that we surround ourselves around, especially as a child. That's all we know. That becomes our belief. My belief was I'm unworthy. I don't deserve anything. That was my belief until I started to adopt the beliefs of others who see the real me. So I say, see yourself through the eyes of others, for others see the real you. These are the positive people in our lives because they really do see these positive things about us. And when they say them to us, we get the choice again to deflect it or to accept it. And so I have chosen in my life to accept all the positive things people say about me and to reject and deflect all the negative things. However, there's something that Laura said that I'd like to like plus on that. Like you said, I don't really care what people think about me. So I've kind of looked at it from a different perspective. It's like, what? I do care what they think because I think everybody's opinion matters, but I get to choose what I'm going to do with it. Am I going to accept it as belief or not? And so I want to hear what you have to say, negative or not. But if it's too negative, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to walk away. Like,
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my short answer. That was really long.
Well, and it's interesting because what's coming up for me as you're saying that is that doesn't this hinge also on us portraying ourselves authentically? Because if we're masking, if we're presenting ourselves in a way that isn't authentic and we're getting compliments for that, then that's not real. That's what we've shown them, not who we really are.
Yeah.
And so again, it stems back to again being vulnerable and authentic about who we are. And then the feedback, right? There's this feedback. It's not failure. And it's so what? If it looks like and sounds like judgment, it's feedback. And we can decide what to do with, like you said, we decide what to do with it. But I feel like it's really important to understand that if it's coming through a filter that we've, photography has been a hobby. There are filters you can put on the lens that change the way the picture looks. Now, since digital photography, a lot of that has changed. They do it after the picture's taken instead of during. But it's the same kind of thing. We used to say they have rose-colored glasses. It's the same thing. Like, not only are we seeing other people, because I do this, I see the best in everybody. There is nothing wrong with them, especially if I love them. They can do no wrong. And I want to defend them and make them and make everything they do okay, because I love them. And we do that to ourselves too. But I think that's really important, that not only are we, like you said, accepting and learning what to do with what we hear from other people, but that what we're showing them is really who we are. And that means being vulnerable. And that can be scary.
Yeah.
But like we talked about earlier, most people don't die from that.
You might die in embarrassment. You die inside.
You lose people.
Die inside.
That's the other part of it, is you can lose people. Like, you can lose people, you can lose yourself. Not everybody's gonna resonate, but when you're being who you are, and I think that's the harder part of it, is that, okay, now they've said their opinion and you're not gonna change, which means they now have a decision. Or you do if there's an insistence. And I think that's the other side of that as well, is that when you start stepping into that, now I'm listening to what you think and doing all that, I choose not to accept it, which means, oh, well, am I walking away? Am I allowing this to stay in my life? Am I going to still be around someone who I know feels this way about me genuinely? And sure, yes, for some, because it doesn't make them a bad person. Their feeling about me in this particular situation is it. Like, if I'm a spiritual person and you're not, it doesn't mean we're not friends. It just means if I say something that's offensive to you and you've got to continue to remind me not to say something, you're not my person. But if you don't believe like me and I say what I say and you say what you say and we go, huh, and we keep it pushing, then you're my person, because you don't have to believe the same. So that stuff starts to come up even further, as you continue to walk into that. And then that next step of fear is then, ooh, who do I have to release? Who's that going to bring up for the release? Because yes, everybody gave their opinion and I have leaned on that and I've heard it. I don't necessarily agree. Now, are you going to be okay with my disagreements and how you feel about me or what I should be doing? Because that becomes then their decision. Mine too. Like, I pretty much have made mine. I'll walk away at this point if it's going to be like this. But if you're going to be able to handle it with your opinion and me going, thanks, but I'm still me, then that makes their decision. I know for me, if that's still going to be a problem, then I can walk away and be fine with that. But it's always, I think I tend to do that as well. It's like, I gave my opinion. Am I going to be okay with the outcome at the end of all of that? And if I'm not, I won't give my opinion.
That's good. I like
if I'm
that.
not ready in that moment to make that decision. But if I am, knowing it could cost whatever, am I willing to walk away from this in this moment in order to give my opinion and say what's going to be said? Because there may end up at the end of that being a decision to be made. And that's the other side of it, is that
there's so many facets to it, right? So many facets. I feel like we could talk about it forever.
Well, I like to say, make your first impression your worst impression. Yeah, because that way people get to judge you like right out of the gate. I mean, because if we're always like this, the saying is make your first impression your best impression. But if you're doing that, it's like your best foot's forward. So it's only downhill from there.
Right. You always have to one up it.
Yeah. If your first impression is your worst impression, it's all up.
I love it.
Yeah. My best relationships, friendships, times came from them seeing initially the worst thing, like, oh crap, nobody sees me like this, and they became the person, where they're like, they embraced all the ugly and is like, oh my God, you're my person, if you can handle this. And it's
I just had a flashback.
I love it. I never put my best foot forward, and everybody's like, is this your best foot? And then I'll be like, maybe not, I don't know it right in this moment, yes and no. But that's just it. I'm comfortable with being the messy person that I am. Sometimes I'm really confident things are really going good. Other times my ADHD is kicked in and I don't even know if my brain is mine at that moment. So, and I'm like, you're either going to love me or hate me. My family, my son, they laugh all the time. I'm glad to be entertainment. My husband makes jokes about having multiple personalities. And that's fine, and we say stuff all the time, but he's okay with that. He gave his opinion, he said what he said, but he's not going anywhere. We're where we are. And he met me at my worst. And that makes so much sense, because those who have met me at my worst are the ones who have been there long term with the understanding.
It's interesting.
And those that met me at my best and then saw my worst were the ones that
I think it's because, I can relate to that. Deep down, I can relate to that hot mess. That hot mess express, let me get on that train, because I can relate to that. I have those handles too, right? I think that's why, and there's also a lot of physiological, I found out later, a lot of physiological chemical things going on that create bonds with people based on emotion and trauma and other things. So there's also that, like, when you go through a really traumatic thing with somebody, there's a bond there. And it's actually a physiological bond that's created during that process of trauma, which is a whole nother like freaking episode. But I want Lynda to talk about her new doohickey. It's called the Story Sculptor. I love that name.
Yeah, the story sculptor, there's AI has been around for a long time. I've been using it actively for about 5 years myself. And, now that it's out there, the public all knows about, well, I should say all, but, most of the public knows
Mainstream.
about, yeah, like using ChatGPT and what have you. But with ChatGPT, there's an ability for us all to create what's called custom GPTs. And so I created this custom GPT called the Story Sculptor. And what it does is it helps you, because a lot of people, when they sit down to write a book, they don't know what to write about. They're not sure what stories to include, like what the meaning of their book should be. Like there's so many questions that go unanswered. And so they just don't start, or they start it and they never finish it. The Story Sculptor is intended to help you to pull that story out of you, to help you to write it. Now you can use the AI to cheat if you want, like to have it plagiarize everything for you, or I don't say plagiarize, but to have it write everything for you.
Yeah.
Or you can have it write it and then go back in and edit, but using it as a great, like a, what do you call it? A brainstormer. The AI can be used as a brainstormer. So the Story Sculptor was created to help you to write chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter until you are completed. And so it walks you through the whole entire step. I went ahead and used it because I wanted to see, how does it work? How does my own GPT work? And I ended up writing a book. And I didn't publish it because I was just doing it for testing it. But I wrote it in, I think it took me about an hour. Now, I know there are people out there that say, you can write a book in 5 minutes. Yes, you can. But this is intended to really walk you through and think through it as you're going. So I don't want you to write the book in 5 minutes. I want you to actually have some thought process in the writing of the book. And so go to Story Sculptor GPT. That's storysculptorgpt.com, and it'll take you straight on over there. There's no cost to it, but check it out. Tell me how you like it, because I'm wondering how it works for other people. You're the first ones that have heard about it. So nobody has used it yet except for me.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's so much fun. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we'll drop the link to it in the comments as well, and all of Lynda's, socials, and we'll put your email in there too, so they can actually email you and go, wow, this is awesome, or give you some feedback on it.
Okay. Yeah.
And so all of that will be in the show notes, but it's storysculptorgpt.com.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear how it goes when you try it. Let me know for sure.
So one of the things we like to do is have the current guest introduce next week's guest. And next week's guest is a pre-recorded session. Her name is Bree Alexander. And Lynda, did you want to do the honors?
I sure will. Well, Bree, she is a certified sound and energy healing practitioner, offering in-person and virtual sessions designed to support mind, body, and spirit. Her goal is to provide holistic alternatives to help manage everyday stress while cultivating more ease, groundedness, and joy. Through a blend of holistic modalities, including breathwork, sound healing, vibrational therapy, meditation, mindfulness, nidra, I'm not sure how to say it, Reiki, aromatherapy, and somatic movement, Bree curates experiences that promote deep relaxation, energetic balance, and inner harmony. Fun facts about Bree: she's a language and travel enthusiast, speaking French and Spanish, and she loves live music and a good vanilla chai.
I like a good vanilla chai too.
I don't know what that is, but
it's like chai is like a tea. And,
okay.
And it has all these spices in it, like cardamom and cinnamon and nutmeg, and it's really good. But it's black tea based. And then the I guess they add vanilla to it. That would make sense. Add a vanilla bean in there. That sounds good.
Yeah, she's got vanilla chai, so vanilla.
I might have to go have one of those. Now, it's too late today, but maybe tomorrow. That sounds really good. Our only announcement, we lost Laura, but that's okay. Our only announcement is we are working on launching our free community. Please, please, please check it out on our website, ftcpodcast.com. click on the word community and it'll take you and you can get in. We'll need beta testers. We'll need people to hop in there and check it out once we've got it built out. We're working on that now. And that's about it. So we will see you guys next week at the same time, 12 Eastern on Monday, July 14th with Brie Alexander. Thank you, Lynda, for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.